This is the Nasserman Hockey Podcast with James Nichols and John Zeller.
Welcome back to the Nasserman Hockey Podcast. We're gonna switch the intro a little bit. Sigh of relief. A sigh of relief for Islander fans. It wasn't pretty, but it's over. James, just initial thoughts here. We're changing things up. I have a new hoodie on. I wore it for the game. Islanders are 1-0 with me in the hoodie. We're wearing it until the winning streak's over. The point streak is over. Initial thoughts as we dive into the show here.
It wasn't pretty. It wasn't perfect, but it's a start. And that's all they need. They needed a start.
I think that's good enough. So the losing streak ends the fourth longest in franchise history, over at 11 games. You could see it in the players' faces in the post game, some of the video and interview.
Yeah,
Pajot, Lee, they stuck with it. You know, in their words, they didn't get a lot of bounces over the last it seems over a month. It seemed like they just couldn't get the bounces ever since that Minnesota game. Things just weren't going their way. But we'll dive into that. First, some overall thoughts on the last few games leading up to tonight. A point streak. Again, not pretty, but a point streak.
A 4-game point streak.
Now a 4-game point streak.
Yeah.
3 game point streak going into tonight. Positive at the very least. Something going in the Islanders' favor where they would have lost it. That Dobson doesn't score late in that game to tie it. The other night, so it could have gone a million other ways. What did you think of the games that are included in this point streak coming into tonight in Ottawa?
They got better and better in every game. It was, still frustrating as hell, along the way. They did some good things and then they did some incredibly bad things. That's just the way it's been going for them this season. But it's gotten better and better as it's gone on, and you've seen guys like Wahlstrom and Dobson step up when they've needed to, because it's been who's gonna friggin' do it at this point, and they were like, you know what, let's take the reign, and they did so. And something interesting that our good friend at Isles Fix, Joe Buono, tweeted that I hadn't even thought about, hadn't even occurred to me, but it's a good positive spin on this whole situation. Is that if you throw out the 4 COVID games, the Islanders have picked up points in their last 11 of 17.
I mean, you can do that, and I don't personally love cherry picking those types of numbers, because that you can do that with pretty much anything. In games on Tuesdays, when the Islanders are playing on a Tuesday-Thursday schedule in a 3 games in 5 days, they have we can Eric Hornick this to death. I don't know that that's worth it, though. I don't mean to say I don't mean to say that Eric doesn't do a good job and he picks information, but you can find anything in the numbers to tell you a story. You know what I mean?
I get it, but there was a storyline here this season, during the time where COVID had been running through the locker room, that why aren't they postponing the games? They postponed them for Ottawa. What's going on here? If the Islanders weren't forced to play those games where they were obviously shorthanded and they had a lot of guys out for COVID, plus the 2 extra in Pollock and Nelson in their injuries, maybe they're not as far behind as they would have been.
As they
are.
Yeah, I mean, you could also think about that they have now 2. They had games in hand. Now they have an extra 2. One of which against the Rangers was rescheduled for March 17th. So they still kind of have that advantage in there. So it's almost, the 4 games and now plus these 2 games. There's a who's to say they wouldn't have just lost those other 2 games against Pittsburgh and the Rangers on those.
True.
So it's then you're talking about 6 games. Anyway, semantics. I understand your point, and I think it's well taken. There's sometimes it's that balance between the eye test and the actual numbers of what's happening and what are some stories in and around some of those numbers and what you're seeing out there that can help paint I don't want to say a truer picture of what's happening, but something different. It's not a bad idea to look at it, with some positivity. It's they won a game tonight. We can do that, right? We
Right.
can be happy. We can try to get back on this bandwagon and get it going again. So I don't blame anybody for just being excited. I know the 30th place team beating the 31st place team is not the most exciting hockey game in the whole world, but for a team starved and a fan base starved for a win and something positive to even build on, uh, it's good enough for me. And it sounds like it's good enough for you. Um, Ottawa tonight, we're fresh off of the win. Like we said, it wasn't very pretty. Lee gets a couple. Master of the 2-goal game. Um, Never had a hat trick in his career.
Yeah, I think he's got
Um,
28 2-goal games.
Incredible. I thought it was more. It could be wrong. So 28 sounds great. Um, Pajot, Wahlstrom. Pajot needed one bad. Wahlstrom finally something at 5-on-5. Although the power play goals were great. Bellows gets one. Seems to be the only bright spot in his game in just watching it, without having some of the deeper numbers in front of me, specifically from tonight. Seems like he just kind of gets one every once in a while. Although he hasn't scored in what feels like an entire year, but since March, in the game against the Devils.
Yeah.
But he's weird for me. Still a lot of mistakes. Shorthanded goal against. That's a quick rundown. What did you see? What would you want to see uh, more out of the Islanders? Is this actually, even though they beat the Ottawa Senators, and this is not a whole lot to hang your hat on, our hat is hung a bit. There is something
You have to
there.
hang the
So
hat after losing 11 games. You have to hang the hat. Let's start there. Number 2, it was good to see after a lax first period. It was, neither team really looked interested in the game, nor did they want to be there. It was good to see them come out in the second period, and it was a much different team. It looked more like what we're used to. They curate the defense, turn it into offense, and look what happens. They scored, I think it was 3 in the second period. Um, it was what we're used to seeing. Something I didn't like was that after they got a few goals under their belt, they had a little bit of a lead, got a little lax again, took their foot off the pedal. Wasn't until a little bit of a push from Ottawa, they score another goal. Now the lead's not so much that they were like, okay, back on the gas. Scored again. Again, another shorthanded goal. That's their 4th this season. Sorokin could have made that save. I'm going to give him a pass because he's been the only bright spot for the whole season.
that's not wrong.
The
Someone
only
it,
bright spot.
He was during that little 3-0-2 streak where he had what is 2 or 3 shutouts. I forget if it was back-to-back shutouts or whatever the case
Yeah.
was. He carried the team then too. There was nothing
Carried
special happening
That's right.
with the Islanders at that time, even for their own standards.
Sure.
Right? They happened to be winning hockey games, which is fine. I don't really care how you do it, but whether that's Winnipeg or whatever is going on, they looked good up until a certain point in the Minnesota game too, when the wheels just fell off. But yes, Sorokin is certainly the lone kind of consistent bright spot, despite the ups and downs of the rest of the team.
Correct.
There's nothing to be Varlam up to a certain degree too. He's really not getting a lot of help in front of him.
No, he's been much better than the numbers show.
Right. His save percentage isn't bad. The goals against is what looks not great. The Islanders, even tonight, got not so much tonight, but still outshot quite a bit. Not wildly outshot like in some of the other games, which is fine. Getting outshot is fine if you're playing Tampa and you're clamping down and you're able to score on some chances and go the other way. But against a team like Ottawa and some of these lower seeded teams, like you really gotta be able to take it to them. Like you just I know it's their game, but like
exactly.
To me there's something missing, and that was my question.
It's not great, but the thing is, like you just said, it's their game. So whether it's against Ottawa or it's against Tampa, they're constantly pushing in their own zone. They're pushing shooters to the outside. and forcing them to take low danger shots. So it's like, yeah, the shots maybe get through, they're low danger, they're perimeter shots, but it's just how they've been playing for whenever Trotz stepped in, however many years ago.
So, that's a good point. I think I'd love to see the shot clock go the other way against some of the teams that they haven't proved it yet this season, but in what we expect out of them is that they just blow the doors off of Ottawa. So I'd like to see that kind of flip the other way against some of the teams that they should just beat, that they shouldn't be in the same rank with. Which is kind of a good segue into this question. Does the team still lack some energy that we're used to seeing from them? And I don't know that not having Brock Nelson or Pulak is necessarily the thing holding them back from that. Maybe it's Cizikas, but what's still going on? What's still missing from the team?
It's such a hard question to answer right now because even though it's December 7th, or it's they have not played as a whole yet since before, I don't know, since what I think it was the first game at UBS, right? So, you factor in the 13-game road trip, which was an obstacle in itself. And not just like, oh yeah, that was tough. Like that was an obstacle. And I know we, a couple weeks ago were asking, did we over hype it? But the inconsistent play once a week, once every 5 days, that's gonna hurt. Right? So they gained no consistency, no traction, no momentum.
A team that struggles with that mightily anyway.
Then they finally get home. Then they finally get home. Lee and Johnston are out. Not that Johnston is so much a contribution to the team at that time, but you lose your captain and Josh Bailey for opening night, right? At UBS Arena. And then the hits just keep coming. Cizikas is still not back, and we now lost Nelson and Pulak to injury, so they have not played together as a whole at UBS Arena. There's just been so much that's happened that, yeah, is there something missing? Yeah, players. The players are missing.
I mean, yes,
missing.
Like I said, though, I think save for Cizikas, who really is the player that stirs the drink on this team. Even when he was in the lineup, there was still something missing. Parise
it's just the consistency is what it is. The consistency is missing, and that's what this team needs.
I think it's fair.
Yeah, like you said, that's one of the things that they struggle with the most, and they're now given, or not given. They're now trying to overcome more obstacles than usual with that. They don't score regularly with their full lineup. They're missing their best goal scorer in Brock Nelson. This is gonna happen.
Oh, I don't disagree there. I think I'm the overall energy, like Beauvillier, we're not seeing out of him. He may still just be trying to get his legs back, which is fair.
Could be.
He wasn't exactly having the best season before that. He just doesn't look like himself out there. The shootout attempt on Sunday night didn't look great. It looked very lackadaisical. Yeah, the confidence is, and that could be a part of it too. But
it could be a team-wide thing, though. It couldn't, it's tough because yes, we see individual performances like Beauvillier not really, living up to what everybody had hoped. People were pegging him for 25 goals before the season. Parise has 0 goals. Palmieri has 1 goal. Right, the confidence overall for the whole team isn't there, and it's affecting their individual play. It's just
we're also talking about different players, and I get a little annoyed. I saw our friend Jeff Capellini said this. He was poking fun at some analytics today in regard to Parise, and that and I can brush off most of those comments most of the time. Something needs to be made crystal clear about Parise. He's not brought in to score fucking goals. That's not what it was here to do. So, like, I don't give a shit if he doesn't score goals. It's not what he's here to fucking do. He's here to get a shorthanded break like that, and that kills some time in the power play. I really don't care if he scores them. It's great.
Aside,
He's an additional thing. If he scored 10 goals this year or 5 goals, I think we would have done a backflip. And there's 60 something games left, right? I think the thing is, and I thought about this during the game. So I'm sorry. We'll two separate things here as I get a little ranty. Parise's not brought in to be that goal scorer.
right?
But Villiers and Palmieri, on the other hand, are absolutely those players. They are
Agreed.
absolutely that's what they're there to do. They're definitely gripping the stick a little too tight. They're definitely just falling into the trap that the rest of the team is falling into. Just these guys got to hit the net. I've not seen. I meant to look up the stats before. The shot attempts must be astronomical compared to the shots on goal because they're just not hitting the net. And I don't know what this isn't tips. This isn't somebody getting in front of them. The defenseman getting in their way. This is straight up. They aren't hitting the net,
Right.
which is a huge problem. Palmieri just doesn't have any confidence. Obviously, Bavelier doesn't either. But I just want to make that distinction. Like that's just not what he's there to do. It's
Right.
like I do not give a shit that he doesn't have goals. That doesn't bother me one bit. But zooming out for a second here, what does this mean for the Islanders right now? We got a lot of comments before the game. Fans are on the edge. Some really think that this could be a turning point if they win. A lot more aren't loving that they're even in this position at all. They don't think that the win tonight or the potential win against the Senators when they tweeted it was going to do all that much. So a lot of mixed emotions. A lot of people on the edge here. What do you think? Is this something that the Islanders can actually use to move forward? That a dam break, so to speak?
Absolutely. Right. First win. Scored a boatload of goals tonight. Scored 5, which is not the usual. They go back home. They're going to play at UBS Arena for the first time coming off a win. So, things are a little bit more loose in the room, right? They go back in the locker room tonight. Music's playing. There's a little bit of life. You're a little bit happier coming back to the rink tomorrow. And then again on Thursday. It's a little bit more loose in the locker room now. It's a little bit more loose on the bench now. And not in a negative way, in a positive way, right? Everybody was gripping their sticks a little too tight. They needed a goal. They weren't scoring any. Suddenly, the dam breaks. They score a bunch of goals. And yeah, this absolutely could be what they needed. This is not could be. This is what they needed. They needed a win, obviously. They had lost 11 straight. But, they didn't just win a 1-0 game, a 2-1 game. They won 5-3. And yes, again, I know it's against the Ottawa Senators. And,
Plenty of mistakes still made.
Plenty of mistakes still made. But this is, I don't even want to say it's the starting point because they're points in 4 straight.
I'll take
how quickly did points in 4 straight turn to not too long ago a 17-game point streak?
Yeah,
right?
I think the Islanders will take that. If that's
These things happen.
If that's the trajectory here, that the team is going to get back to, a 10-game point streak, hopefully more wins than overtime losses or shootout losses or any of that.
Right.
More preferably, their first win at UBS Arena. I think that bodes well for their chances because they have to have a hell of a run here, here on out to make it. So, but
yeah.
Their game by game approach is the right one. I think looking at it, I know we just said we're going to zoom out for a second, but going too far is too much to wrap our heads around. Week by week, how do you chip your way up the standings, beating the right teams in front of you, doing the right things, building a little bit of that positive consistency. We saw, if Lee can keep getting goals every once in a while, if Wahlstrom can continue his good play, if Barzell, I think, has goal at points at least in 6 straight, with I believe 8 points in 6 games or something
He's
to that
racking up
effect.
assists right now. It's good to see.
So he's doing well. He could stand to, if he wasn't on his off wing all the time, I'm sure he'd get some shots on net, which is another mind-boggling thing that we're watching with this team. In addition to their penalty kill, which continues to do the exact same thing as it's done for years and years, even before Barry Trotz got to Long Island, which is infuriating to watch. That top forward just kind of yo-yo across and not going to outskate the puck, as my coach used to say. And they continue to, even at the professional level, try to just do that. And I don't get it. But anyway, so I think it's hard now because we put a lot of these show notes together before tonight's game. I think I have to take the perspective of some of the fans where this only matters. This win only matters the next game that they win. If they win the next one against a good opponent and they start building momentum, this meant something. This was a good turnaround point. If this is a win and they lose the next one, this meant absolutely nothing. So getting to, and I know you have some feelings on this, and I know a lot of people do, is, and I'll lump them together. I know I kind of have them separated here, but is Trotz on the hot seat? Where does it leave Lou Lamoriello? Where does the team go from here as far as that's concerned?
Excuse me while I adjust my microphone.
Oh, he's getting up on his actual soapbox.
If you're watching this, look into my eyes right now. If you're listening to this in your car, tune your radio a little bit louder, okay? You guys waited years for competence. And the second the going gets tough, you're going to say the tough gets going, and you want Trotz gone? This man went 3 years overachieving and bringing the Islanders on his back further and further every season he's been here. Do not come at me after 21 games and say, "Yup, Trotz is done. They figured him out." Find me a better coach in the NHL. Find me one. And whatever name you put on the table and slide across my desk, take it back. You're wrong. Find me one. You won't. You won't. He carried this team on his back for 3 seasons. 3 seasons. And after 21 games, we're going to say he's got to go? Madness. Madness.
Now, so
and I won't have it.
No, and I appreciate all of that. And that's that was a John Zell level rant. 10 out of 10.
Thank you.
To bring some levity to this for a second. But is there a line for the criticism? And I'll bring up a Chris Botta tweet. He said this the other night after Sunday's shootout loss. He said, "Another amp point, not enough. Fans doing their part. The GM can't get the lineup help. Promote from within and sit more bad vets." He ended the tweet with Noah Dobson is special. The fact he was scratched once proves once again Trotz and the staff must do better. I thought that was a fair assessment because I think a lot of fans definitely feel this this pain, of the vets kind of getting a way longer leash than some of the younger players. And if you're going to lose, and I think we've said this before, if you're going to lose, you may as well throw the youngsters out there.
Sure.
Chara's not getting better. Some of these other players aren't necessarily going to get better. Give some of them a shot. What do you think?
That's not wrong. Okay. Something that we have to understand on the other side of this argument is Trotz is also a human being, right? He's going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. The best coaches make mistakes. You think Al Arbor never made a mistake? Listen, it happened. Maybe not often, but it happened. Okay. Right now, it's only 21 games into the season. And that might seem like a lot, and it is a lot, but there's still time for, lineup changes. And we saw tonight, Wahlstrom scored, Bellows scored, and they were put in maybe positions to do so. He meaning Trotz, just said via our good buddy Joe Pantorno of AM New York, do I want to see Oliver Wahlstrom on the first line? I do. Do I hope he becomes a first-line winger? I do. And he went off on this long, elaborate rant, if you will, on him being a first line winger, and if he can be, I don't know if that's going to happen this season. I don't know if there's going to be more time for younger guys, but like you just referred to Chara, Trotz sees something in Chara that he doesn't think is necessarily that bad. According to his game score tonight, he was actually pretty good,
He's
and
gonna
he was,
have. He's bound to have a good game,
and he actually had a
albeit
good game
against.
last game too. So it's gotten. Listen, the initial shock of how bad Chara was in the beginning should slowly be starting to wear off because he's kind of settled down, and it's not horrible anymore. It's not great, but it's not horrible. It's not like you know he had a puck on his a grenade on his stick tonight. It wasn't like that. It was, but it's not like that right now. It could get there again. Don't get me wrong. Should he maybe sit down for a game if that happens? Sure. Do I think Salo should be sitting in the press box right now? No. But listen, Trotz is human. He's experimenting. He's trying to salvage the season.
I think part of it too, and some of the frustration is that Chara was playing so poorly that it made Trotz need to split up Pulak and Pellick, and that ultimately hurt the
Right.
team on its own. That hurt the team, right? So I think that's where the frustration is. I think
Right.
for just to start. So I don't. I think, and I had mentioned this an episode or two ago. I didn't love the kind of shrug shoulder emoji guy that Trotz was playing, and it was like, I don't know what else to do. You argued that like it's the players on the ice, right? Like, what else is he going to do? He can't put on the skates, can't score goals. But I don't know. The roster choices at times are troubling, and I'm trying to play devil's advocate here. I only partially believe some of this, but I'm trying to at least put the argument out there for us to have the conversation. People question Koivula, why Zarnik was in over him.
Zarnik got a good
Um,
game tonight.
I think he had a good game. He had a great look, setting up Bellows for that goal after Wahlstrom got the puck to him. It's a great tic tac toe play. Um, I think we all dreamed of Wahlstrom to Bellows calls over and over again. And as we hope for some of these younger players to kind of make their way into the lineup. I argued on Twitter through the NHP account that Zarnik likely is the closest Cizikas replacement.
Yeah, that was a
Um,
good point.
although I don't understand why Bardreau doesn't get his chance because he looked good. I feel
I think he's hurt. I don't think he's playing right now.
he might not be playing. That's fair enough. Be that as it may, that's likely what it is. Somebody else also pointed out Koivula might also have a wrist injury, or something just small that's he's not able to get in the lineup. It's also worth mentioning Martin's up in the lineup for 2 games. And it was
Yeah,
announced
they said.
earlier today at the media availability that it's
Yeah.
likely something lingering all season.
Mhm.
I wouldn't be surprised if that means Johnston is just in, and only when they need Martin specifically, they'll put him in. It's not really worth it. Johnston still play. He had a pretty good game tonight.
I agree.
The more he plays, likely in that role, the better he's going to get. Maybe they just save Martin's strength for either a stretch run here or the playoffs if they happen to get there. Again, a long road to kind of get back to that point. So, yeah, the lineup still, as you were saying earlier, Nelson getting back, Pulak getting back is going to be huge. Just getting Cizikas back might be even a huge shot in the arm that the team really needs to start getting going. Getting some of the lineup back together. Parise goes back with Peugeot and Wahlstrom. Although the theory, is it Wahlstrom? No, it's Bevillier, Peugeot, Wahlstrom, or
Yeah,
Palmieri.
Bavillier, Peugeot, Wahlstrom, and
I
the
did
second
see
line.
Palmieri out there.
The second line is no. I'm sorry. It's Bellows, Peugeot, and Palmieri, Bavillier, Zarnik, and Wahlstrom tonight.
I did see even It's so hard. I don't know what the right lineup is because you don't want
I
to
mean,
leave
lines are
anybody
in a blender
exposed.
all game too.
They're in a blender. I did see Palmieri, Pajot, Wahlstrom out there for a second, and
Probably.
I looked at that and said, "That's actually a good line. Like,
Yeah.
that could work." I was happy to see Pajot. That's 2 straight games with a goal, if I'm not mistaken, or at least 2 and 3 games.
For
Um,
Pajot, yes.
yeah. He had the tip. Can't remember what game that was in, and
That
then
was
he
against the Blackhawks last game.
and then he gets one here.
Mhm.
So that's again, that's a good dam to be opening. Lee is a good dam to be opening.
Mhm.
Wahlstrom something 5-on-5 is just great. So um, it's probably not super fair to give Trotz a lot of criticism
No,
outside
it's
of some
not.
stuff on decisions on defense. Um,
You
especially
can't
when the
look at
whole lineup isn't
you
there.
can't look at what happened in Vancouver. You can't look at what happened in Philadelphia and turn around and say that's the same because it's not.
There's a lot of other forces other than just terribly bad decisions. Vancouver with Travis Green, ex Islander, former Islander rather,
Right.
Travis Green. None of that was his fault. He had a shitty team.
Right. And the thing
He
is
fell
with the
victim to
Flyers,
that.
with Elaine Vigneault, same situation. They lost their identity last season. This season they're saying to themselves, "We don't know who we are." Well, they were saying that last season too. Same thing goes for Vancouver. We don't know who we are. They were saying that last season too. That has not been going on with the Islanders. That has
Yeah.
not been going on in the Barry Trotz era. And none of what has happened, he was dealt the shittiest hand there is. Here's a 13-game road trip that you're going to be gone for a month and change. Here's your captain and longest tenured Islander out for the opening of UBS Arena. Plus, 5 other players are going to get COVID, and you're going to lose your best goal scorer and number 1 defenseman. Good luck. He was dealt a shitty hand. Let's pump the brakes, people.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. All of that are fair points. And to kind of build off of some of that despite the tone, some positivity here. Um, the power play improves. They have
Yeah,
been getting pucks to the net. That might just be a result of we need to score some goals here and start, being more competitive in games and a philosophy shift for the Islanders offense. I think that was really good. Obviously, Wahlstrom looking better as of late. A few power play goals, as we
sure.
said, finally 5-on-5 goal. Um, Dobson looks good. I was really critical of him about
Oh,
a
yeah.
month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, saying he needs to be a little more confident, needs to play with a little more authority. Um, that's changed by and large with this
It's
team.
huge.
What do you think? What do you think about Dobson's play as of late?
It's been awesome. Trotz said it best. He had to grow up quick, and it's working. That was the best way of saying it. Everybody went down, and he was one of the first ones back. And when he came back, he showed excellent poise with the puck the other night. He made a fantastic move in the offensive zone that even had me go, "Whoa, Noah Dobson, watch out!" And then he goes on to score. Not too long after that, because it was a late push by the Islanders in third period against the Blackhawks. He goes on to score that game tying goal with like 4 seconds left. So he's looked really good, and not only in the offensive zone, he's looked really good in the other 2 zones as well. He used to kind of make some rookie mistakes, and we had been, beating that drum that he's never had a full NHL experience. He had a couple of seasons pieced together that would equate to a full NHL season, but he's starting to get his feet under him now. It took a little while. He was, sheltered coming into the league. He's been a third pairing defenseman with sheltered minutes ever since, and now that he's got the opportunity, he's got the minutes. He's starting to show his confidence. He's starting to show what he can do. Um, and it's just, if it keeps going in that direction, listen, it stinks that it had to happen the way it did, where all these guys go down and they're missing. But maybe it's what the Islanders needed for Noah Dobson to gain the confidence through getting more minutes, getting more opportunity to now say to himself, "Oh, I know how to do this. I know how to be a good defenseman who can move the puck and also be a responsible defenseman in my own zone." And he's starting to do that. So for the Islanders' sake and for Dobson's sake, you hope to see that continue.
Yeah, and when Pulak gets back and the defense starts to get a little bit more solidified again, where it's more of the regulars, um, it'll only be good for the New York Islanders. Before we kind of continue here, we're going to take a quick break, so we'll be right back.
This episode is brought to you by DraftKings. Football fans, I'm sure we all love an action-packed, high-scoring NFL game. But with the latest no-brainer from DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, you'll be a winner once a single point is scored. New customers who bet just $1 on any team to score can win $100 in free bets. It's that simple. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still get in on the NFL action. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings daily fantasy sports contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, use promo code THPN, bet $1 on any team to score, and win $100 in free bets. If they score, you score with the promo code THPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 years or older, New Jersey, Indiana, Pennsylvania only. New customers only, minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer, restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. This episode is also brought to you by Manscaped. Ho ho ho, ladies and gentlemen. The holidays came early here at Manscaped, the leading men's hygiene brand. Manscaped just launched new products including their all-new ultra-premium body wash and 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner. It's time to give yourself, or someone who needs it, the gift of beautiful hair, skin, and balls this holiday season. Go to manscaped.com and use code NHP20 for 20% off and free shipping. It's time to leave your significant other some cookies and milk at the bottom of your chimney. I'm talking about the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0. Inside the Performance Package 4.0, you'll find the Signature Lawnmower 4.0. This electric trimmer has proprietary, advanced skin-safe technology to reduce cuts on your nuts. It's also waterproof so you can use it in the shower. It's like a gift to your partner with less mess. The Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Crop Preserver and Crop Reviver, an anti-chafing ball deodorant, moisturizer, and toner. It's time to keep your North Pole feeling and smelling fresh. 'Tis the season to load up on Manscaped products, so get yourself, your dad, your brother, and friends the best gift of all, the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0. Get 20% off and free shipping with code NHP20 at manscaped.com. Every guy out there needs to add Manscaped to their wish list this season. Once again, get 20% off and free shipping with code NHP20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code NHP20. Make Santa proud and shop Manscaped this year.
So Noah Dobson looks better as of late. The defense is kind of coming back into form. Sebastian Aho, up and down a little bit.
Sure.
Seeing these kind of flashes of this confidence that he can have, still some mistakes. It could be that, like Dobson or Bellows rather, hasn't played a whole lot of hockey over the last couple of years. Has been kind of that 7th, 8th defenseman. Hasn't spent any time in Bridgeport in a couple of years, or at least a couple seasons. I forget that we had like 2 seasons in one calendar year, I felt like, which is very hard for me to wrap my head around.
It's madness.
It is madness. I'm having a really tough time lately, just like tracking time again. I don't know why. I think it might be like I keep thinking about March 2022 and how that's 2 years since all this craziness, and then I'm just getting lost in like the day to day. I've also had some time off and I traveled. I was on Long Island. So it's nice. And I'll be back. Hopefully going to another game.
Oh my
week
God.
of Christmas. I think I mentioned that a couple times on here. Anyway, with the win, the Islanders are actually undefeated in Canada. So a little positive note there. They're 3-0 in Canada. And they're NHL 500 on the road this season. Which isn't great for a team with Stanley Cup aspirations, for sure. But it's going to be their home record that kind of gets them over the hump here. They need to turn that around. Their upcoming schedule is a kind of a mishmash of teams as the year kind of winds down. It's nothing insurmountable. There's maybe a few teams They play Vegas, the Capitals, um, the Devils, who've been good. They play them this Saturday, and before that, the Predators. So they have a decent schedule coming up where they can really get back into form. They can extend this point streak, or at least have a good 10 or 15 game stretch um, through the end of the year and early into 2022 that gets them back into shape. Um, they look for their first U.S. win since October 24th, which seems crazy. Yeah, right. Like, you needn't say anything. Um, so and throughout all these struggles, something got me thinking the other day, and I had a similar thought about another player, but I wanted to start here as we wind down the show. Um, Looking back at Jordan Eberle, was that a mistake letting him go, considering where the Islanders are right now?
Look,
And I say that in addition to, with the caveat that my expectation would have been for him to stay and also Palmieri stays.
uh,
Right, really round out that
sure.
lineup.
I don't know how that would have happened because they literally didn't have the money for it. But you know,
Now they do, which is the
I mean,
irony of
now
it
they
all.
do. But how could you have known?
You
You didn't
wouldn't have,
know,
but
right?
it's just funny how it worked out. And
Right.
that was kinda how I put it in my, piece with the hockey writers, was that the irony that you opened up enough cap space, to the point where you can fill a need that you created by letting a player go and exposing them.
But I
So,
mean, we've look. Seattle plays a much different system than the Islanders, so obviously he's going to score more.
oh,
Okay,
the points are bloated, the goals are bloated in comparison to his time
right?
with the Islanders. I'm not that I won't disagree with, but it would have rounded out the offense. We were looking for another scorer. That was the other
I
part of the
agree.
summer, right? Like, we were trying to move it around. So in writing that, I was, similar to Letty, right? Man, could really use a puck moving defenseman. If only we hadn't traded two of them. You know, so
Not one,
n-
but two.
but two in consecutive seasons, no less, or off seasons rather. Taves, I understand. Letty with an expiring deal to then again open up that cap space. I think he was a $5.5 million player, Letty. Like, it
Five and a
wasn't
half.
it. That's exactly what the cap space is right now, and that could have
Yeah.
saved you, and if you take Char out of the equation, it's we have even more cap space. It's only 750 or whatever plus bonuses, but it's not impossible.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I thought that was funny. What do you think? I know again you were getting on with Eberle and uh,
No, yeah,
playing a
it's
different
like,
system in Seattle.
in hindsight, you're gonna say to yourself, "Oh man, wish we had Eberle right now." But at the time, like, look, and if we kind of want to circle back to what we were talking about before with Trotz, is he on the hot seat? Everyone's saying the same thing. Oh, what about Lou Lamoriello? Look, we were praising the guy in September for everything that he did. Find me a guy, a person on Twitter who wasn't going, lose the best there ever was. He stole another one. GM of the year 3 years in a row. Look, he tried to construct what he thought was going to be a good on ice product for Barry Trotz to use. He looked at Barry Trotz's system and said, these players should fit the system. Doesn't always work out that way. And I mean, there's no way that we could even sit here and also say it's completely broken because we still kind of don't know. Like I said before, they just haven't gotten to be able to do anything all together in a regular rhythm.
I think that's completely fair, and it's funny. It's kind of like even a broken clock is right twice a day. The Islander fans that were yelling, "I can't believe that these are the only moves." Even media outside of the Islanders market in particular, saying, "I can't believe these are the moves that they made." They added Komarov 3 years ago, and they're like, "What the hell is that?" And they make all these moves, and it's very confusing. And Islander fans are like, "I can't believe they got Parise over Tarasenko and thinking again that's not an equivalent thing. They're filling a very different role on this team. Um, but it's crazy to me. Like they were saying that for so long, and they happen to be right this season.
Right.
Right? Again, and I think there's a big
A broken
caveat.
clock is right twice a day.
Yeah, that's what I said, and I think that's just as much of a caveat can be put on the Islanders' last two runs with shortened seasons and how they were playing and overall, and the teams they actually beat last year, and the position they were in the play-in to just kind of be a playoff team right from the get-go and beat Florida and blah blah blah. That you can kind of put a similar caveat on the season, um, more specifically the Islanders than maybe some other teams just by the situation.
Right.
Really long road trip, bad COVID situation. Um, if they don't make the playoffs, I think I mentioned this either last week or the week before, very recently about the Tampa Bay Lightning and how it was not a straight line upward towards that cup. They made the playoffs. They missed the playoffs. They made the final. They make it only to the second round one year. Like it was up and down for a number of years. Not in like super drastic way, but enough that they miss the playoffs. That's going to happen. You're going to take maybe slight steps backwards. They're going to end this this season one way or another, whether they make the playoffs or not, in a pretty good with a pretty good cap situation, despite having some players on the wrong side of 30 with pretty significant cap numbers. They'll have a decent amount of money to kind of go out and fill some roles. With
Agreed.
a lot of the other ones filled that we know that look, can an entire year go by and Parise and Palmieri only score one goal between the two of them? Absolutely. That means they had a bad year. I don't know what more to say than that about it. But it doesn't mean that Palmieri is just like shoot him into the sun.
And it also doesn't mean that, this team needs to be blown up and the rebuild needs to start and trade everything and get asset. Like, pump the brakes, people. Again, we're 20 games in, so let's calm down.
Even again, 20 games in, I think I'm even looking broader than that. Like I
No,
said,
I understand, and that's where I'm going, right? If they, for some reason or another, don't make the playoffs this year, right? Okay. They still have a core here that's pretty manageable. And like you said, a good chunk of change going into the offseason. For the past 3 seasons, Lou went into the offseason and said to himself, okay, these are the kind of players we need because this is the kind of system we play. Oh, and it's brought us to 2 conference finals. So, yeah, we're going to try that again because we were 1 goal away from the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, you're working. This isn't a Honda Civic you're trying to get a few more horsepower out of in your driveway. This is more like a Formula 1 car.
Right.
That
this
you're
is a well-oiled machine that
you're tweaking. You're just you're doing small things that there's
right.
Very rarely do you see these like massive overhaul. Like you got to do these small things to make your team or your car or whatever better. You don't always need to. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you need a whole new system. You switch motor manufacturers, do all this other stuff. That's not what this team needed.
Right.
And now they have. Go ahead.
Who's to say? Building off of if they don't make it to the playoffs this year, who's to say he doesn't turn around and go, okay, we need to change a little bit, and he goes out and he trades for a Tarasenko, for argument's sake. Not confirming anything, don't know anything.
I think it's just the space. Like literally, you can between UFAs or whatever the case is, even with a new Barzal contract, presumably when unless if there's just room for that, whether that's a trade or a signing or whatever the case is, you can add around that.
Right.
And I think that's where I know we're skipping ahead. They won a game. I don't. It sounds like we got really excited in the beginning of the show. Can they turn it around? It's possible. 4-game point streak, blah blah blah. And then we're like, well, they might miss the playoffs. And at this point, it's tough to say. It's a long road for them. It's gonna be really difficult. They've had a lot of bad luck this season.
They did.
I know
they did.
I know that, and I think what I was getting at as a second point that I diverted myself, that I'm circling back to now is that kind of analytic debate versus the eye test thing that kind of keeps happening. And we do have a special guest for next week that we're waiting to confirm some stuff with. So um, they'll be a lot more well versed in all this. So we'll talk about it then. But um, the season kind of needs to play out for some of that to like. Again, Palmieri and Parise can score 1 goal between them the whole year. It's not likely that Palmieri will have a down year like that again the following year, right? It's
You hope not.
it's fine. And to the detractors with Parise, I think similarly to those around Komarov, um, he could be playing well and not scoring goals. The same way you can score goals and be playing like shit in every other zone or even in the
Blasphemy.
offensive zone,
Never heard of it.
right? Crazy analysis.
Crazy concept.
Yeah. So I
Come on.
think Bellows is a good example, right? Not
Sure.
really doing a whole lot. He didn't do a whole lot tonight, but he scored a goal. Okay, yeah, the team needs to score goals. That's fine. But if you're a liability out there, no one wants you on their team. Like you
Listen.
can't be a complete not on this team, not in a systems team.
Right.
And I think that's where we need to start making distinctions about who we're saying is bad. Is Palmieri a liability out there? No, he's just not scoring goals.
Right.
That's
And he
not doesn't mean he's
seemingly comes so
playing
close to
poorly.
scoring one every game. He's incredibly snake bitten, as is Parise. It's unfortunate. It's it.
Yeah.
There are just some situations that happen like this that you just all you can do is shrug your shoulders. I don't know what else I could have done. Maybe I could have lifted the puck an extra inch. Maybe I could have went off my backhand, but I didn't. I'm just snake bitten right now. What am I going to do now?
Sometimes you're feeling it and sometimes you're not. And
Right.
it's tougher when it's your role. Again, if
Right.
Parise starts rattling off goals in the next 3 games, it's gonna be amazing. But that's
Now,
also not his job. Palmieri needs to do that. That's what he's getting paid to do.
now
It
I'll
doesn't mean
say
he's
this.
playing poorly. Like that's where a coach will come in. That's where that different perspective is necessary. Is to
Now
look at their game more holistically.
I'll say this, right? The Islanders built for the playoffs. And if they somehow, some way go on a run and make the playoffs, look who Palmieri did last season.
Yeah,
Last
he was the reason why
postseason.
they got out of that round.
Right. Who's to say Parise won't do the same freaking thing? Now you got two guys doing that, right? Palmieri had a pretty iffy, shaky tenure with the Islanders when he first got there.
Oh,
Then
it
the
was not
playoffs came.
great in the 14
No,
games or whatever.
no.
What do you have 4 points and it was
Right,
something like that. It wasn't very good.
right. So if the Islanders make the playoffs and Parise and Palmieri now start to go off in the playoffs, you bet everyone's screaming, resign them, throw $1 million at them a year in bonuses,
Anything.
anything.
They're gonna wash Parise's car.
Give Parise 6 years. It's like, all right, come on. This is what we do, right? We what have you done for me lately? All the time. That's what we do.
Yeah, and I don't think Lamoriello is not just gonna give somebody a ridiculous contract like Parise
No,
3 years after this season because he
no,
had a good playoff, right?
not gonna happen.
Palmieri is young enough, and can be moved down the lineup. In 2, 3 years, he's still a good third line winger,
Right.
and by then there'll be some other players that are coming up that they don't need him to be a second or first line winger at that point. The expectations put on him will be different
Right.
throughout the next 5 years of his contract. So we need to
Now,
keep those kinds of things in mind. I think it's really important.
the other thing I'll say too is again, I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. The season's not over. And you saw the St. Louis Blues in January be last place and then go on to win the Stanley Cup. It's December. I know they say seasons could be lost in November, and yeah, they did a pretty good job of trying to do that in November. I'll agree with you there, but there's plenty of time left, and if they turn this 4-game point streak into maybe say 10 games, you bet Lamoriello is going to turn around and go, okay, we need to improve because we need to keep this going, and I want to show my guys that I have confidence in them and that we can do this, right? Darren Drager did say today that he knows Lou Lamoriello is an active GM, and he did say himself, he goes, "I'm still not betting against the Islanders because this is the kind of team that they are.
If
They've
they can
been
put something together here, it's entirely possible that
they've been
something
dealt an
happens.
unfortunate hand. It's been a tough start to the season, and it's been a little elongated because of the circumstances, but Lou Lamoriello is an active GM. He's been on the phones. He wonders if a guy like John Klingberg can fit the Islanders because the Dallas Stars might be starting to sell off some of their parts. He wonders if a Jacob Chikrin can be had out of Arizona for the right price. Now
I think that
suddenly
one's really, really tough, but I
it's tough.
totally
It
understand.
listen, and so is John Klingberg. John Klingberg is is a master on the blue line. He's a little older than Jacob Chikrin, but nonetheless, he would fit swimmingly, and he would be a surefire upgrade to a Nick Leddy or anybody else we have on the blue line right now as a puck moving defenseman. So, listen, the ball's rolling a little bit right now. It's a small ball, but it's rolling. It's a snowball, and it's starting to gain a little more snow, get a little bigger. Let's see what happens on Thursday when they go back home. Let's see what they play like in front of their home crowd coming off of a win. Their first win, I'm sorry, their first game coming off a win in UBS Arena. It's a little different now,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
A little looser. Everybody's a little happier. This could be the beginning of the Islanders season, if you
It could
will.
be, and
If you will.
some perspective here. The Islanders are 5 games back. They have 5 games less played than Detroit, who's in that second wild card spot. They are 12 points behind them. That's really important.
Right.
Like the 5 games that they haven't played, there's an opportunity there. They have to win the games
Sure.
first. And if they even won, what's what is crazy to me, if they even won 3 games, if they were 3-8 in the last 11 instead of not 0-11, but you know what I mean with the overtime losses and shootout and stuff like that. This is a different conversation, right? Because they would still have 5 games to play to catch up,
And
some of which are against these teams, right? Like they played Detroit again recently
right, and those
or
games that
upcoming.
you just mentioned, those are the 4 COVID games that they had to play. Take those games out of the equation,
It's
and
entirely possible.
this is a different
It's
conversation.
and I know I argued kind of against that earlier, but even still, there's 5 games. Columbus, they still have 3 games in hand on them, um, and they're 9 they're 9 points. Columbus is 9 points ahead. But, like, they can start leapfrogging some teams pretty quickly. Now, it's gonna be hard because there's a lot of back-to-backs. They play pretty consistently from here on until the Olympic break, which is a different discussion, with with the way some things are going. Robin Lehner came out and said that he's opting out. Wouldn't be good for his mental health if anything did happen and he did test positive for COVID.
Good for
So,
him.
conversation for perhaps a different show when we get closer and some Olympic stuff. But yeah, there's some teams in and around like right in front of them. Um, like New Jersey has 23 games played, and they're a pretty good clip above the Islanders, but they're just setting the pace, right? It's not any different than looking at Detroit. Surely in the locker room, they're going to just try to work their way up slowly in the standings. But with 21 games played, and a lot of teams with 23 plus games played, save for Boston, who would really be the challenger there. But again, it's the pace car in all of this to keep using the F1 analogy. They just have to beat the game to beat these teams in front of them. With it, they have to win the games that they have in hand. Specifically, they play Boston again. They play Boston soon. They play Detroit again soon. They play New Jersey again soon. Like they just have to win these games. Specifically against the teams in front of them. That'll make this interesting. They can end December in a really good spot.
Yeah, they can.
So it's completely up to them whether or not the rest of the season is worth it after
Yeah.
December. So they're in a half decent spot. Um, but yeah, we can roller coaster of an episode.
It was.
Any last thoughts here after a win?
Listen, be happy that they got this win, right? Be cautiously optimistic if you have to be. That's okay. I'll say it again. You did a good job of putting that message out there. No matter what happens with the on ice product or the team, I think it's more important to remember that even though everybody as fans loves the Islanders, and we all talk about the Islanders so much, we just want to see them win. I think it's just really important that everybody just needs to start being good to each other, because everybody's ripping each other apart over opinions that they have on a team that they just love to watch, right? I have opinions on a team that I write about and report about, and people rip everything to shreds if they disagree. And listen, you have an opinion, that's fine. Try to be a little more.
You can question things without being.
Try to be a little more. Not confrontational, conversational. Have a
Yeah, you can
conversation.
have a debate. There's a way to say things, and you can even be a glass not, half empty kind of person.
You can not like what's going on. That's
Yeah,
okay.
you can not like what's going on. You can be a glass half empty person, but still don't do some of what's going on here.
Right.
Like I said, like we said in earlier in the show, a lot of mixed reviews. About I asked our Twitter audience, what's the tipping point for you? Tonight's result, will it give you hope? Has the tipping point already happened? A lot of mixed answers there. Some of it had to do with roster decisions, some of it had to do with just poor play, some of it had to do with they're just unlucky. So it seemed like it was all over the place and not very consistent. We can still do it in like a slightly nicer way. You can just be aggravated. It is also just sports, and
Right.
the just a silly game. So I wouldn't take it too seriously. But that's probably a good place to end the show. Before we get too ranty about Isles Twitter, which is just probably not worth the energy. So we'll end it with a thank you to DraftKings and Manscaped. As always, use that THPM promo code with DraftKings and NHP20 promo code with Manscaped. Thank you to the Hockey Podcast Network and Isles Fix, and of course, all of you, our listeners. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to or watch the show. We really do want to hear from you. We've tried not to change the show. We try to keep it as consistent as possible for you. These Tuesday recordings and Wednesday drops. We're trying to do some extra stuff. We want to hear from you. What can we be doing different? Do you need us to be angrier? Do you need us to be happier? Do you need James to yell?
I yelled a little today.
You yelled a little today. Do you want more of that? Do you need more of a sexy indifference from us? Whatever it is, please let us know. We're open to it. We have a really good kind of following, and we want to make sure it's for you. It gets some things off our chest. We like doing this, but it's for you. So just let us know. Comments, tweet, DM, whatever you got to do. You can follow us across social media at Nassim Hockey, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. You can also join our Discord for a safe space to chat with fellow Islander fans. Lastly, you can find James' work at the Fourth Period, my work at the Hockey Writers, and both of us work with Joe Buono and the rest of the crew at Isles Fix. Thanks again, and until next time, let's go out.